Hi everyone, my name is Franz. I'm a co-founder at Fontself, and today I'm really excited to talk to you about something that we deeply care about, which is the democratization of type making. So you might ask yourself, why in the world should we bring very easy font creation to everyone? There are already thousands of fonts out there, but if you look closer, it turns out that most of these designs have been made by a small elite of makers. And we truly believe that if you put something that's really anyone can embrace, if font creation could be as easy and fun as playing with pictures or illustrations, then this opened up a lot of opportunities, not only on the creative side, but also on the business side. So I would just like to tell you a few stories here, a few user stories. So let's have a look, for instance, at Tracils, who's a young designer in the US, and who has, over the beginning of his career, who was really interested into the social protests from the 60s, and who wanted to capture that and the messages that people would put on banners into actual fonts. And so he managed with Fontself to create entire families of such typefaces. And he became so good at it that he even received one of the most prestigious type awards. So this is, just one of the examples that we're really proud of. And another one is from a designer in South America, Vanessa Zuniga, who has been, combining her passion for intricate patterns and actually making visuals and illustrations based on these patterns about very strong cultural items in her country. And so she actually was leveraging color font technologies to turn her crazy way of making illustrations into an art form that she was also recognized for. At the same time, on the other side of the world, there's Tom Cunningham, a designer in Australia, who started from a design boutique and actually turned it into a full font foundry, but actually releasing tons of different very striking title typefaces that he would just start selling on creative markets. And it became so successful that over the past 12 months he has generated over $500,000 in revenues, which is again for most designers, the ability to sustain yourself with your artwork is something that's very motivating. So again, very, very interesting story about empowering designers by making their own fonts. And then just the last example I wanted to show you is again somewhere else in the world. So Viktor Pushkarev in Russia, who again has been combining his passion for handmade lettering, especially with around the Cyrillic scripts, and who digs into advanced OpenType features to create alternates and ligatures that really stand out as typefaces. And this project actually landed him a contracting job about a physical presence of his typefaces. And so he designed a font that was uniquely designed for a cathedral. So the typeface that he designed was engraved on giant panels of metal, and this is ended up on a monumental building. So again, a lot of different stories that we were very, very happy to see that just giving the ability to make their own fonts to these people in a way that was just quick and fast really helped them write new stories into their lives. Now, to demonstrate how easy it was actually for them to create their own fonts and how you could potentially do this yourself, I will make you a quick demo of Fontself Maker. So I'll go here in Illustrator, and this is the kind of project that we've seen so many designers work on, trying to lay out their own alphabet, and then they would like to use them on their own designs. So Fontself is right now just this little panel, a side extension to Illustrator. And the idea is that you would simply select a whole set of letters that you've drawn, and drop them on the extension. And here you can see that I can assign them as uppercase letters, and instantly the software is linking each selected object into an actual character. So you can have, all the boundaries around the letters, and you can instantly have a preview of the design that you've created. And basically, that's the only thing you need to know to create a font. You could actually quickly install it. So let's call it KND. And instantly, I have a font available, OpenType font file available in my design. So I could select my design, load the character panel, and pick here the fonts I just designed. And that's it. So that you can really understand what we mean about making font creation experiences that are as frictionless as possible. You can see that the font was very quickly created, but it can take some time once you dig deeper into the process. As you type some specific words, you will see that there might be some spacing adjustments that needs to be done. And that's something that's quite lengthy if you have to do it manually. And actually in Fontself, we provide you ways to do spacing and kerning manually. But we think that as designers, that's not where we see the most value from our time. So we've been working on algorithms that will do all that work for you. And here you will see the smart spacing and smart kerning feature in action, where basically by pressing this single button and entering just a single value, the system will analyze all your shapes, all your characters, try to find the best spacing around each of them, and then create all the kerning pairs to fix all the spacing that you might usually have to fix manually. So here again, you see in one click, I just created a font that had different spacing settings up to 166 kerning pairs just in one click, just in 1 second. And that's it. You can go from 0 to hero in just a few seconds. Now, this might have looked, quite easy and fast to do, but it turned out that to get there, to get this simplicity, it took us quite a while. And when we look at font creation, usually when we asked designers, what they thought about this, there was a lot of frustration, because when designers are taught that font creation is something that takes a lot of skills, takes a lot of time, requires complex software, that's really something where people are put off. So if you really look why this happens, let's try to envision the problems that we have initially when we look at font creation. And this is typically what people feel when the first time they open a font creation tool. They're a little bit overwhelmed by the complexity of the software. But also on the creative side, whenever we start playing with lettering, we want to play with any kind of tools with colors and all of this. And when you usually turn this into a font, usually, everything would be lost. And that's again, a source of frustration. So at Fontself, we were like, okay, how could we go back to the pleasure that we have when we play with letters? How could we remain that creative freedom and get to something that really, that's an answer for us designers and makers? And it all started actually 15 years ago in 2005, where we try to challenge all of these frustrations, and basically we had to do everything from scratch. So we started by creating our own font creation tool, which was a basic software where you could actually import images of letters that we had drawn. And from there, we were able to capture all the richness that we wanted and the expressivity that we wanted as digital typefaces. But the workflow was very complex. I mean, we actually hacked many different tools together, and it was lengthy. So the user experience was, really not something that you could do quickly and very intuitively. But we felt like, okay, this is interesting enough so that we should bring this to the world. And we decided to create software that other people could start using. So a few years later, we decided to do something quite radical, which was to actually release a product that would be designed for everyone, for casual users. and as well to release it as a free software, because that's one way to really push something into the open. And really the experience was that you would be proposed with an online font creation tool where you would have to fill with your handwriting a template. You would scan it, import it in the software, and then we created bridges in different apps so that you could use your fonts in many different contexts. And despite some traction and some interests, again, the user experience was quite challenging because you had all these different steps, different devices. And so really we could say that there was an interest, but the challenges about the usage, we didn't have revenues, so it became a bit more challenging. But most importantly, we didn't really fully understand that we needed a complete user experience that was we had to create something that was truly compelling to get adoption. So again, back to the drawing board. That entity actually was closed, but we felt like, okay, we need to keep pushing that idea because there's really something behind that. So again, a few years later, we were like, let's start something again different to bring it to the markets. And this time, we really try to focus on a niche segment, creatives, designers, and trying to bring them products that brought value, from day one. So what we did was simply, rethink the whole workflow and try to focus really on the last mile. So once you've played with some lettering and you go into a tool like Illustrator, you want to turn that eventually into a font. So we just went to the Kickstarter community and say, hey guys, what about if we could bring font creation right within Illustrator and Photoshop so that you could, make fonts in a tool that you are already familiar with? And people loved it. So that really, was for us first an incentive. We finally had money, to finance this project, and we had the certainty that people were, willing to spend money and to spend time to turn this into something that they would be able to use on their daily workflows. So that's when we launched the first version of Fontself Maker for Illustrator, which was a very simple panel. And intentionally, we wanted to make it very accessible. So a fair pricing, free updates, and basically two key features. The first one was the ability to drag and drop your letters from Illustrator into this tool to make open type fonts. But also we integrated a chat, which basically helped us have a direct conversation with our users and keep refining based on their demands. So here you can see a few examples of the fonts, that people started creating once they had this new capability. And again, going from, professional designers who wanted to turn their lettering into fonts, or people who just wanted to have some fun now that they could, make fonts very quickly and very easily. And because we had this vision about, playful font creation, we thought like, okay, now let's bring this to Photoshop as well, because in Photoshop, the big difference is that you can work with any kind of image. And that brings the possibility to create fonts with textures or with colors. And this was something, again, back to our roots that we really wanted to bring them to the market. And it turns out that this was, it required some work to make it happen. But it was just actually the moment when Adobe started implementing a new font format that allowed images to be implemented in font files. And this is the font format called OpenType SVG. And this is like, opening a completely new door to font creation, because now you can make fonts that have all these rich features. And here you can see examples of static typefaces that were turned into digital fonts thanks to Fontself with Photoshop. And to spread the word about color fonts and talk about their technicalities, we launched an online resource called colorfonts.wtf, which will summarize a few of the formats and how these can help the community embrace these new capabilities. To keep spreading the word, we partnered with the creative market, so that our user community started, actually selling fonts that they had made with this plugin, And it turned out that there was a good traction with that, and some of the fonts, some of the best-selling fonts of the years were actually some of these handmade, hand-textured designs that were seen in many advertising campaigns, and started really showcasing that there was a demand for creative lettering. Now, because we had successfully made it happen to images, we knew that we wanted also to bring this to vector artwork, because again, there's no reason you should be tied to a specific tool. And it was actually just in time when we got contacted by a team at Ogilvy, who was working on a tribute typeface for the late designer of the rainbow flag. And this was, not only a typeface that, has had a tremendous impact within the LGBT community, but it was also something that, again, demonstrated that, if you combine technology and something that's meaningful, then you have something that goes beyond just what the pure technical or pure graphic capabilities that we can bring to fonts. And this typeface was actually used by many people to demonstrate the values that can be represented with such a powerful design. So again, we are passionate about this, about democratizing the access to color fonts. So we actually worked with Adobe, and we partnered twice, launching something that we call Color Font Week, where basically we had a lot of very talented designers around the world who would embrace these tools, start playing with what you can do with colors, transparencies, textures, and so that a lot more designers could actually start embracing and using them in their designs. So this was really a moment where we felt like, okay, we had this vision about font creation that was easy and creatively very rich, and we finally brought it to the market. So basically in last year we were like, okay, we've reached some kind of maturity, and when we look back within just 4 years, the Fontself community had generated about 500,000 font files, which is almost the entire amount of typefaces that have been released into the world until then. And for many of our users, this has been very powerful ways to monetize, either by selling their fonts directly, or even by selling services to clients for campaigns with this new ability to create typefaces and turn them into fonts. So again, when we kept moving the product forward, so we still have this very affordable pricing, but we added many OpenType features, many capabilities that users were asking, so that they really had a really powerful feature sets, so that they could push their ideas and come up with new designs, and the tool would really adapt, still keep its simplicity, but really be able to empower any kind of creative ideas that designers would have. And so we've been also extremely pleased to see the adoption, not only by the professional designers, but also by teachers, by students, and even by schools, who have seen that such a very simple approach to type making was something that could really be a first step for aspiring type designers. And so we've been really thrilled that the educational community has seen this as a great new approach to font creation. And again, because we've seen so many people use Fontself in many different ways, we wanted to showcase the breadth of the creations that people have been making. So last year we designed and we launched a book called Welcome to Typocracy, which is featuring about 100 different projects, all designed with our tool, and really showcasing, not only the different origins, the different types of people who would start using fonts as a way to customize their design, but also showing the breadth of potential for using typography for even illustration and other things like icons and such. So that's just a small portion of what we've been doing. But again, what we really wanted to transmit to you today is that we think that type is a wonderful medium. A lot more designers should be able to embrace it, to play with it, to have fun with it, and eventually to make money out of this new canvas. And Fontself wants to be part of this, and we want to write that story with you, with our user community. So if you're interested, you can check our websites and get access to the PDF of the book that will tell you a little bit about our story. Go ahead and please keep us posted. Now, it turns out that this year is actually very special to us, because in 2020, Fontself will actually be 15 years old. And to celebrate that, we wanted to, again, keep pushing that story forwards. And by the end of this year, we will be able to release something that we think will be the next big thing in how font creation can be democratized. So we really look forward to showing you what we're going to write and how you're going to be able to enjoy making your own fonts very soon. So again, on behalf of my co-founder Mohammed and myself, I first thank you for your attention, and I welcome you to this wonderful world of font creation, and I look forward to seeing all the cool fonts that you're going to create. So take care and see you soon. Bye-bye.